You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa. So, good evening. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, the Pan-African family. I want to salute all of you, for joining this extraordinary edition tonight with a special guest. As you can see, our Reverend Brother Father Gerald Jumban is sitting right here in the live from somewhere in Europe. He's going to tell us where he is, and he will be introducing himself. Today, we just want to gather again. But before I get into the topic for today, first of all, I'd like to address my apologies for the past days. We've been absent online. And a couple of you reached out to find out what was the reason. The first reason was like on Monday, we ought to have had a conversation with, our peace ambassador for the Horn of Africa, Dr. Tony Jaja. First incident was there was a blackout, as we know. So the internet usually shut down in the east on the Horn of Africa every evening, like what he said. So like if they would have internet in the mornings, so evenings, there's just not going to be any connection. And we know the challenges that have been going out there in Sudan, in Ethiopia, and so these things are reoccurring. It's actually a systematic thing where evenings they don't have access to go live. Just for your information, that that the situation in Sudan is not getting any much better. People cannot really or connect freely, walk freely, gather freely because of the insurgencies that are still happening back there. So we should take our focus up there as if everything is correct out there, right? Ethiopia is the same situation, as we're keeping a very close eye on what is coming out from there. But also across the continent, we have, a kind of an end of year that is unusual. Since last year, we know about the pandemic that has been gradually getting into a very critical stage, as we know. In Germany, where we're sitting, is really hard. The regulations are getting tighter and more tighter, even in like this, where families used to gather together, celebrate the Christmas coming every December. This year it's not going to be as usual, so people are limited, the vaccinated or the unvaccinated, invitations of the groupings and stuff like that. So it's actually, like we say, the entire situation globally is not really like it used to be some 2 years ago. So we're already getting used to the changes in a particular setup, in the way people meet, in the way people are going to collaborate or network or partner or gather for other things. It's not going to be anytime. We don't know whether it's going to come back to the same thing, but what we know now and what we're experiencing and what we're seeing now is a totally different setup from what we know. So yes, what does that make us understand? It just brings us to the topic of today, which we want to share with one another, to say, what unites us should be more even stronger than what divides us. So if different criterias or patterns of life that we used to look at, like, oh, we don't want this, oh, we don't want that, oh no, because of this. I mean, the things that usually we have seen to have caused a disunity should not be really relevant, but the things that unite us, what are the common values that we share, as a people, as humans, and particularly in these challenging times, we should become more closer, more united, more togetherness, more in peace with one another, more reconciliation. We want to see more unification, particularly among us as African people, right? So we want to focus really this week on what really unites us. And because there's been a lot in the concept of Pan-Africanism, and we have some political agendas, we also have some cultural differences. In such a case that we begin to ask, what actually is Pan-Africanism? Does Pan-Africanism mean that there's a particular way of life where older people are actually getting marginalized because of backgrounds, because of status, questions arising? Or it is like what Professor James Small said, it is our unity and our identity that is very important. But of course, our history and our culture and the values that we represent, particularly knowing that we are different. We come from a country that is different, has a lifestyle that is different, that has a belief system that is different. There's nothing that is global when it comes to us. So what unites us is what is unique to our values and what we uphold, coming from the creator and the life of our ancestors. So it is not about principles or anything that will unite us anymore, titles or professions, countries of origin, religious backgrounds, status quo, who is more than who. But of course, what is uniting us more is our values and what we all believe in and what we uphold and should pass over. So I want to thank you. I hope all of you are gathered now. And I thank a lot of you that have reached out to us. Like I said, but yesterday, what happened was I was just lazy, to be very honest with you. Yesterday, I just like feel like not coming live. And before I realized it, I passed out. I was just sleeping. I couldn't even do anything. And I hope most of you also are going through this feeling right now. It's not only about me. When I talk to other people, they just say, yeah, there's just an energy. You just don't feel like doing anything. You're just lazy. You just don't want to get out of bed in the morning, particularly in the winter seasons out here. So I think that is that thing. There is something that is just in the air. It's not just because we're lazy, because we don't want to work, right? But there's that feeling of something that is in the air. And that's the reason why we should even become more closer, more focused, more united. And what unites us is more than what divides us. So good. Thank you so much. I want to get back to the studio and I greet my Reverend who is sitting comfortable there. I want to greet you. Thank you for being that voice and coming to say, I want to share this space with you today. I have a message, I have a calling, and I think that is very relevant to all of us. If you're watching from the continent or anywhere in the diaspora, please do not forget to share this communication. Like we say, it's all about a family gathering tonight. Good evening, Reverend. How are you doing?
Dr. Susan Tata, good evening. It's a pleasure being with you, and it's an honor actually to be invited to this Pan African TV station. I'm so grateful, and I don't know whether I should begin introducing myself or.
It's okay. Just go ahead. Like when I posted, you know what? When I shared the flyer today, and I get some feedback like a reverend, interesting, and so like reverend, interesting. So yes, just go ahead and tell us, introduce yourself, and yeah.
Okay, I am actually a Catholic priest. I am in Rome. I'm a professor in Rome, and I'm a priest from the southern Cameroons, the Cameroons, and I found myself in Rome for some years now, studied, and then became a professor there, and I'm doing priestly ministry also in Rome. And I'm grateful that I'm given this opportunity to share, bring ideas. Africa is a continent, I think the biggest continent actually in the world, though it's often minimized. And so it's made up of big minds, great minds, people who think ideas. And I think, as Dr. Susan Tata actually said, we should be, there should that what is called enlargement of the mind as far as Africa is concerned, because as we open up to other areas and other people speak, we begin to understand actually certain trends, certain things. And I'm grateful that the theme of this particular talk is bringing us together, togetherness, which is very important for Africa, and which actually it's the message of all great fathers of the African continent. I begin from the great figure of Kwame Nkrumah, who, when he got independence in Ghana, Nkrumah discovered that Ghana was too small for his ambitions. The ambition of an African, united Africa, because all these small, small countries around, we are easily defeated, we are easily crushed, we are easily manipulated because of these small, small islands, why we call countries, which were actually not created by us. And so the issue about unity, the issue about togetherness is very important. And when we talk about Africa, as Dr. Suzanne always says and emphasizes in this TV, we're not talking about Africa, the motherland, Africa, Africa. We know what history is. We know our history, and it's very difficult to talk Africa without actually the history of Africa going back. As Chinua Achebe used to say, that you can't know where to go when you don't know where you're coming from. And when you know where you're coming from, then you know where you stand, and then you can move on. So that is why the intention of making such moments in a TV program like this, a Pan-Africanist TV program, which actually I have to really thank the authors, from Dr. Susan Tata to those who actually are accompanying her in this great venture. I think this is the best thing Africa needs. A Catholic, and obviously there are already people who maybe should be asking themselves, what has a Catholic priest got to talk about Africa? Just the fact of having this black color, maybe chocolate color, whatever you want, is already Africa. I could just show myself on a screen, and that's already a message already. And that is why it is good to listen to people from different environments. My field of studies is sacred theology. I have a doctorate in it, but we know that the real studies are actually on the field. Yeah, and in the studies, I've discovered many things about Africa, which we are living great ignorance about our continent, the contributions of our continent to the world. When people talk even about Christianity in Africa, we remain in the 18th and the 17th century. But Africa, from what I've known about theology, Africa actually was missionary. The missionaries, they were missionaries, the first century and the second century to Europe. That time there was not even whatever is called Europe now. Europe was just a village or maybe a bush over there. What was known was Rome that was controlling the whole world, but Africa was already around. And great figures like St. Augustine of Hippo. Yeah, you can't talk about Western theology. You can't talk about theology in the Christianity without a man like Augustine of Hippo. You can't talk about it without people like Tertullian, without people like Origen. Those are people who founded the Christianity and exported to Europe. But at one point in history, because of the jealousy that was in the area of Europe, they planned it very well to deal with Africa and take everything African. The libraries in Egypt that were destroyed in the first and second centuries, the libraries in Egypt that were destroyed in Carthage, all those libraries had the information of what great Africans did to maybe bring people to the realization of the fact that God exists. And we can say that it is Africans who actually got the idea of the God of the Trinity, the God of Jesus Christ, took it and then began to write about it. The first Christian theologian was Tertullian, Alexandrian and Egyptian. So I'm talking from this background. I say we can't talk about Africa without going back. And I'm saying this to say that there is always somebody bringing up something actually to contribute to the great mass of wealth of opinions and great ideas about Africa. I have seen great figures talk here, and people with great minds. There is Dr. One of the famous African minds. He has beards like that. I've forgotten his name. I love listening to him because he gets us into the spirit of what Africanness is. When we talk about Africa, Ubuntu. What is Ubuntu? Ubuntu is love. And Africa is known wherever. We are the creators of the civilizations of the world. We are the beginners of the civilizations of the world. What is Africa not? The point is, at one particular stage, we forgot ourselves and people prepared and crushed us. But the realization of what our beautiful histories and what we have been, that realization is a very, very important thing. And that is why Africans are enlightened everywhere. An African who finds himself in Brazil because of slave trade, slavery brought them over there. An African who finds himself in the United States of America because of slavery that brought them there. An African who finds himself maybe in Finland or maybe in Denmark because of the recent African tyrants, post-colonial, the post-independent tyrants who are driving African great minds and African great people away from Africa. The African who leaves Africa because of studies and goes maybe to England, to France to go and study, or maybe for business. That is what we're talking here about. That all those great minds, all those great people, and when we talk about great minds, we're not talking about education. There is what is called wisdom, which is not about knowing A or B or C. No. Innate wisdom, the wisdom of the African, where we get into the spirit, the energy that pulls and that shakes the world, where we go into the spirit. And Africans emphasize more the spirits, feelings, sentiments, what is called in French, a langue. I mean, what pulls you on? That's why dancing and enjoyment and celebration is our thing. God created us for those things. It is only at one particular moment in history where European thinkers began emphasizing on the mind. And today, when you talk about people, great people, you only think about those who have had maybe scholarship, those who have had great, but the real wisdom, the African thing, which, as we know, civilization began in Africa, and the first man is an African. In fact, I believe that when we talk about Eden, Eden in the Bible, the Genesis, we're talking about Africa. Africa was the Eden created by God. And actually, I've noticed moving around in Europe, moving around in places, it's good to travel. When you travel, you see how Africa and what Africa is. Where I come from the Cameroons. We don't have winter, this harsh winter. We don't have so much of a harsh, maybe summer too, and all that. From January to December, it's like our weather is the same. I believe that where I come from is the Eden that is spoken about in the Bible. And that is true because even science today proves that the first person was African. And when you go to Australia, there are Africans in Australia who didn't go there as slaves. They went there. It was African kingdoms that explored places. They went there. Those are the people called the Aborigines, the Aboriginal people, the indigenous, yeah, in those areas. They were there. They went, our great kingdoms had explored places. So as a priest, even the Catholic Church where I come from, which actually it's a shame to where I come from, because as John Paul II once knelt down and did some mea culpas about the Catholic Church, Pope Francis gradually is coming to that realization, and he has done a few things in South America to begin to talk about what missionary work of the 18th and the 17th centuries did to the Aboriginal people. And though the Aboriginal people of South America are still Africans, what they did, the missionary work of even in Africa, back in our own territory. Normally, I was supposed to verse myself with Roman colons. Normally, yeah, but I asked myself, how could I be talking about Africa? And I don't go back to my graphy African dress. Yeah, but because one thing, we have to begin to get into the African spirit, which people told us was wrong. They told us it was wrong. But we are realizing that it was a big lie. We talk about colonialism, about people having, because what is colonialism? Colonialism is Stealing. The only definition I have of colonialism is stealing, where empires decide to invade peoples and steal their goods, steal their property violently, steal their culture. You know, we have heard about museums in Europe actually having African, African, yeah, that's stealing. What can you define that about? But we know very well that there were also good things from colonialism. But that is what we stand about, and that's why we have to be united, the people outside and the people inside, in order to face this plundering attitude of somebody who came. We as Africans, with the Ubuntu spirit, we welcomed them. We were happy with them, but we didn't know that they had other plans. And that is why, Dr. Susan, that I'm so grateful to you that you bring us to think about these things, to talk about these things, and to see how actually we can move on. Because there is only one word I can say: unity among Africans, to bring us together, to form a strength. Look at Europe. Even with the devastation that the First World War and the Second World War brought, the divisions, they realized quickly that the only thing that can save Europe again and bring back the dignity that Europe had, maybe in the 18th and 19th century, is unity. And that's why they've been struggling with the EU. We Africans have so much to do to really stand strong. And as I read somewhere in Chinua Achebe, he was writing. I love reading Chinua Achebe, even his novels, and but most of all his letters. No, and his essays. In one of his essays, he speaks about a certain virtue, a Roman virtue, the Roman Empire's virtue that they used to use for conquering peoples. The Romans call it gravitas. Gravitas. That means that was the sing song among the soldiers who went out of Rome to conquer places. Gravitas. Gravitas simply means seriousness, earnestness. So we cannot conquer, we cannot win back our dignity without using the arms that those people used in order to conquer us, which one of them is gravitas. It should be a serious thing for every African to be conscious of the fact that it is a matter of do or die. Either we win or we perish. That's seriousness, that's earnestness, to stand on our feet and say, no, it's enough. Let us come together and let us see how actually we can build Africa. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prof. And yes, I already see from the comment, the reactions of us getting awake, being awoken to the reality, to face our reality. And like I want to say, I want to thank all of you that are signing in and are joining this conversation. Remember, a couple of times we've said here, not all of us are going to get there, even. Not all of us are even going to be awake. There's still a lot of us that will still not get the point, will still fall asleep. Some have not even gotten up to that consciousness and realization. And so we have to be very patient. We have to be careful one another when we talk about unity, and we talk about us, the awoken. Who are the awoken, who not? It is a general thing. Like Prof you're saying, it's a general thing. A black man is a black man everywhere. That doesn't even matter whether you're a president. But if you're not conscious of your reality, of your history, even if we still on the journey, we still don't even know what is the right direction that we're focusing on. That's why we need each other. We're wakening ourselves up from different sectors, different backgrounds, different origins, different service, all in the unity. Do we realize something now? Have we get back our senses? Are we back on track? Are we on the rail? Right. And so I want to get back to you, Prof, because there's something about your name. There's something about, we know that name Jumban comes from a tribe in the southern Cameroons that are known for warriors. not just only warriors, but people of ethics. And we know about, I don't know if you're related to Kevin Joban, who actually wrote a book, and he wrote Lukang and the Leopard. If you see on our image circulating on our ancestral image when we're making the promotions, he's there, Kevin Jumban. And he wrote this Lukang and the Leopard, the great warriors who defeated the leopard. And so you could already see that spirit of the warriors that come from this tribe of the Insok dynasty, which I think you belong to. So, talking about religion and our cultural inheritance, and particularly the values that unite us more than divide us, if I want to take into consideration the fighting spirit of the warriors that you come from, it is very certain that the agenda that we had, even on, just take only Cameroon, you see from the area where you come, there are more Catholics than priests, most of you in that region. But if you go to like the region where I came from, where I come from the Meta region, you have more the evangelists, what they call the Presbyterian. And so you could already see a culture from the beginning. Even in one country, one province, there are others that are Catholic, there are others that are or whatever. The division was already there or not when they brought the missionaries.
Dr. Susan Tata, it's a very, very important question for Africa. Yeah, because that question gets into why Africa was defeated at one point in history. Because the defeat was the slave trade and colonialism are only just consequences of the defeat of Africa. Africa was defeated because the trouble with one of the misunderstandings about Africa is that we feel that the problem of Africa is economic and political. Those were just consequences of what had happened. What happened before was the destruction of African culture, the destruction of African learning, right from Alexandria down to Carthage and then to Ethiopia. It was intended to happen. And when they destroyed, it was easy now to penetrate. Because when you destroy the minds and hearts of people, it's easy to get his money. It's easy to get his goods. It's easy to even get his child, his wife. It's easy. And that is what happened to Africa. And the point is, the problem is not even the divisions. Because Italy, where I come from, when you go to Florence, the Italian that is spoken there is different. When you go to Sicily, the Italian that is spoken there is different. When you go to Benevento, the Italian that is there is different. When you go to Milan, and it is influenced by the various vernaculars. Because they were also different people like us. Because sometimes the argument is Africa is made up of tribes, and therefore that is why Africa was weak. That is not the point. Every people have just been little like that. But the point is that the realization of Africans that in those tribes and kingdoms we have to come together is what the European realized before us. And when they realized and they brought themselves together, they began to conquer. When we talk about Rome, the Roman Empire, Rome is just a small place like that, very small, small place like that. But sometimes I ask myself, how do they say that this small place conquered the whole world? Yeah, just because they had alliances with people. You will discover that even the first one, the Second World War, it was a matter of alliances. The alliance of the Axis, the alliance of the Allied forces, and all that. Europe has this very strongly in mind, and even the Berlin Conference was a matter of alliance of Europeans sitting down to conquer that particular place where they've discovered great things there. And so the realization of Africans about an alliance, it's so important. It's a matter of the hour. So that when Kwame Nkrumah goes to studies in the United States and hears this from his great professors and reads actually past history and sees those secrets that Europeans and Americans have, which has made them great. Even America, we talk about America as a country. Those were states, independent somehow states that came together to defeat Britain. And so that alliance is everything. The topic we're talking today is everything to Africa. But the point is that we sleep on these things and we feel that it is Europe that will come to unite us. No people have ever united others. It is a matter of us, the consciousness of the importance of that. And therefore, as you was, I go back to my name, which you spoke about, Jumba, which I come from in Scotland, and which is honored as one of those warrior areas, and people actually that fought against colonialism. They fought until one of the forms was taken from Saul and killed. We know they say that the font is not killed, but we know. Yeah, was finished in Bamenda. It's called Chisong. For in Solomon, Chisong is Bamenda. And so the Kumforki means they crush you. They crushed him in Bamenda because he refused to renounce. He refused to give in to the Germans. And so Jumbam simply means uh, the last. He could take the last position because at one point, some wise people saw in Scotland that it's always good to be sometimes to be quiet. Listen to people, let them talk, and then after that, you come behind. When you come behind, you've already listened. You're full of wealth of experiences of people who have already spoken. You've already heard about them. Then when you speak with some weight of wisdom. Yeah, and Kenja Jumbambo is one of the renowned writers in that part of Africa, the West Africa. He wrote things. He wrote The White Man of God and Looking at the Leopard, which you rightly cited. Yeah, and he was writing the experiences of the Nsalt people, their traditions. For example, The White Man of God is about how the Nsalt people and Nkar people received the colonial powers. When I talk about colonial powers, I'm talking about everybody, both the political, the economical, and the spiritual. I know it's surprising that a priest could talk like this because it's historic. It's a fact that some missionaries came as chaplains to colonial bodies, and therefore the missionary work that was done in the 17th and 18th century in Africa, it's a terrible thing. It's rough work, rough work, rough work. As I repeat, it's rough work. Some were crooks, funny people, priests who maybe who were already, what can I say? Yeah, who are sent to Africa, the bush Africa, just to be there. I mean, to those have humans have animal people and all that. Sometimes that mentality, we have to be very clear about this and to be very outright about it. It's painful. And sometimes when you study and go deep into things, you notice things. The missionary work that was done, even in India, you can't equate the missionary work that was done in India with the missionary work that was done in Africa. No. India, which is still considered as brown people, when you get to what the missionaries from Europe did in China, in Japan, that is what is called missionary work, where they unrealize the humanity of those people. So that the documents of the Catholic Church are wonderful documents, perfect documents, a theory. But the human instruments who went to those places, they did terrible things. And it is actually a pity too. Slave trade. We have to expose these things because the exposition of the history of Africa helps us to bring Africans together to stand on their feet. The fact that I'm in the Catholic Church doesn't mean that I should not talk about the Catholic Church. It's a wonderful church. And I say the roots of the Catholic Church are African. Because the African theology was carved out by African Egyptians, African Alexandrians, and those like Alexandria or Egypt of those times is not the Arab Egypt of today. The Arabs only came around the 6th and the 7th century because Muhammad became what he was around the 5th and the 6th centuries. We're talking about Africa of the 1st and the 2nd century, where Tertullian, Origin, St. Augustine of Hippo were those who wrote books, who wrote theology. You can't talk about Christianity without these minds. I give an example of St. Augustine of Hippo, who is painted white today. He's white. But Augustine was a black man like you and me, Dr. Susan Tata. Yes, Augustine, he went to Milan in Rome. That's where he had they say he had his conversion somehow. Yeah. And we ask ourselves, his conversion in Milan. And after that, that is, Augustine maybe did only 1 or 2 years in Milan. But it is spoken as if the whole life of Augustine was in Europe. So that Augustine, before he went, was in Carthage, a philosopher already, and a man who loves life and who lived a very good life. After that, he went back to Africa and served the church in Africa. Those are people who brought Christianity of theology, of paper, into Europe. And Europe was no place. Sometimes we talk about Europe as if we can begin to compare Europe with Africa. Africa, when you spoke about Jerusalem, you spoke about Africa. Remember that even the Jesus Christ we're talking about, who was Jesus Christ? Who was the mother of Jesus Christ? It's Mary. And where did Mary come from? You are from the southern Cameroons, and you know that there is trouble in Cameroon today. Yeah, when there is war and people are houses are burnt and all that, when a man picks his child and picks the wife and is running for safety, where is the man first? Where would a man go to seek for refuge? Like Okonkwo of Things Fall Apart in Chino Achebe. When Okonkwo was exiled, he went to his mother to the mother's place. When Jesus Christ, when he was born, and there was trouble, and Herod wanted to kill all the children, the babies around that time, and there was Mary and Joseph, and they had to secure this child. They ran to Egypt. They ran to Egypt. Egypt is the Egypt of the black man. It's not the Egypt of the Arabs, of the Muslims. No. It's the Egypt of the black man. They were running to Mary's home, Mary's place, because Joseph's place in Bethlehem was unsecure. So Mary is a black woman. Jesus Christ is black. When we talk about Jesus Christ being black, is Jesus Christ black? And so when Tertullian, when Augustine of Hippo, when Origin are writing about Jesus Christ, they're writing about their thing. Our son, when Jesus Christ is taken to Egypt, we only hear Jesus Christ after 12 years with the people of with the teachers of the law in Jerusalem. A young boy of 12 years discussing with big brains, wise people. Where is that knowledge coming from? It's coming from the land of the first civilizations, Egypt. So Jesus Christ was brought up in Egypt, the wisdom of the Egyptians. He comes back, and he is already discussing. And the great minds, the great people of the law, they are so happy to meet this gentleman, this little boy who is coming from that land of wisdom, to talk with him in Jerusalem, where he was with the mother and the father. And no, the mother and the father were searching for him. Where he says that, why are you people searching for me? I'm here doing the duty of my father. Those are little things which we Africans glide through, but which wisdom, but it's gradually coming out. And at the end of the story, a continent like Europe, not to talk of America. America is a new world. It's created just yesterday. We will place ourselves where we're supposed to be and take our pride. And so the noise about Africa being maybe a land of stupid people and all that, it is propaganda to get everything African. So today we see our colonial masters plundering the resources, economic resources, political power. Now, those are little things. What we should be thinking about are the knowledge of the libraries of Alexandria, the libraries of Carthage, All those places that were burnt, checking in libraries what was inside those type of things, and bringing back the soul of Africa to our people. So that when you look globally at that, you notice that the best thing for us to do is accepting each other, listening to the story of each other, because each one has something. Because sometimes
Correct.
we have to be very careful, because sometimes also because of anger, outrage, which is normal and which is very, very okay and very, very important. Because of that outrage, that's anger. We tend to build our little homes and yeah, and that intellectual schools of thoughts which begin to show that we know, but normally somebody who actually knows is open to other areas to listen to what has happened. I give an
Ashe.
example, except you are. I don't know whether I should continue.
No, continue. Yes, I
Yeah.
was just agreeing with what you say. We have to
Okay.
listen.
Yeah, I give an example. A thing like slave trade. A thing like slave trade. What happened? The example of what happened in Haiti. You know, there is this country called Haiti where nearly all everybody is black there. How did our brothers and sisters, how were they taken to that country? It is historically known that it was the idea of a priest who at one point, a Spanish priest, let's be very, very clear, a Spanish priest called De las Casas, who, because the Indians were weaker, or maybe some other people from some other continents were weak, they needed raw materials, they needed labor and all that. And he proposed theologically, and reduced the dignity of the African, the humanity of Africans, that those people, they could be better, because it seems as if they are not completely human. And that is how a priest joked, and whole peoples, thousands, millions of peoples were brought out of the continent. De las Casas, this is historical. I did this personally in one moral theology course, which I did when I was still studying my license. And it was very painful. And my greatest pain was when I heard from certain quarters that that gentleman was being prepared for canonization. Because they explained that he did some wonderful things, maybe in India and some other place. I say, because of the humanity of the African that he did, if such a thing happens, it is some of us who are inside the church that will speak out against such things. Because my brother and my sister who are flooded out of Africa without their consent, it is pain to us. Because those Americans, Afro-Americans who are in Africa, in America, those Africans who are in Brazil, who are in those places, that was the manhood of Africa brought out of Africa. We who are in
Correct.
Africa, we who are the people in Africa, we are the children, we are the babies. We are the babies of old mothers who do not more have power. We're the children of the old mothers, old weak people. The real African manhood was flooded out of Africa like so much stuff. And we should speak this with outrage. Yeah, because it's painful. When you hear the Jews, just in about just in, it's not even about a century now. I mean, from the 1930s, the Jews have already spoken out seriously about what Hitler did to the Jews in Germany. And reparations are already, it's not a matter of maybe, they're not asking. And today, when such topics come up about Africa, you see people still playing around with it. Should not happen. It shouldn't happen. We should speak with outrage. The African outreach is salutary and it's noble for things to be righted, but let us control ourselves. Yeah, because violence will not help. Yeah. Let us learn how the Jews did and work it out, and let no mediocrity should be given quarter on these things, because it's painful for our people. Africa is down because knowledge, because spirituality, because the moral strength of Africa, the manhood of Africa was raided out. And the people who remained were weak people. Maybe I would call maybe the African riffraff somehow, who didn't know what to do. And we're struggling now. That is why people like the Afro Americans who are awakening now, they should know they were the special, I mean, the choicest Africans. And the propaganda that maybe, or maybe the ideology somehow that sometimes is, it's pernicious to hear sometimes Afro Americans, some thinking that it is Africans who sold them out. It was not. The battle started from the first and the second centuries, where African libraries, African knowledge, African wisdom was destroyed, and the economic, the later days of slavery, the 14th and the 15th centuries, was just were just consequences of what had happened before, where we were crushed, planned, and crushed, and then raided. It's a pity. Thank you, Dr. Susan.
Thank you so much. I can feel your outrage. And like you said, these are things that we need to speak out with outrage and stuff like that. But thank God we have our spirituality back. So we don't have any cause to be outrageous about issues that we know, because we know who we are. When we know who we are, we understand that also the payback time is gradually coming. Every single thing, whether it was a genocidal or a raiding, the creator has a payment and a judgment time for everything that we do, even in our own private lives. Now, I want to touch a very important topic. I don't know whether you're aware of it. Of course, you should know. There is this, and it's that focus that I want us to, look at that power. No matter what they think, no matter what systems or whatever ideologies came to us and thought that they crush us down. It was just they never could crush us down. They can never crush the firstborn, the co-creators, right? For whatever reason, the creator even allowed this to happen is what we're trying to get to understand. How did we even get there to deny our own things, deny ourselves, deny our spirituality, deny our names, deny our colors, to what we're still seeing as those consequences for today? So, but what I want us to talk about is that power in the spirituality that you said. There's a very famous story, no, not actually from so, but from Com, which is also in that region. And you know about the story of the Afua Com, right?
Yes, I
Probably.
know something about that. Yeah.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. We know about that. We talked about with King Bongane the other day about these artifacts. But we also know that in your own tribe, there was this Ngomso, if I'm
Yeah.
right about it. And Ngomso
Yeah.
was considered the queen mother of in
Yes.
the palace that was also stolen and is still in Europe, is still circulating in Europe. And these are the spirituality artifacts that were taken. And why would they take a queen mother from the palace? And even, but it's also the work of these missionaries who came, deceive, like you said, raided, not even deceive, raided and stole the most useful spirituality items that we had. But this one of the Afuakom, I don't know it. I don't really know it because I grew up to read it, and that he was taken. This spatial spirituality artifact was taken to the Americas, and it
Yes.
caused a lot of havoc because of the powers in it until they had to return it. Do you know anything about that? Can you confirm it? Can you tell us? Can you educate us actually what happened with this piece? It's very historic, isn't it? And no one is talking about it.
Dr. Susan Tata, I've heard something about that story, and but I wouldn't like to make errors because I know the Com Kingdom is one of those renowned kingdoms in that part of the world, and to make errors about the historical spiritual strength is to do evil, actually evil, yeah, to those people. Yeah,
Mm,
but it's a story that cuts across in Africa. Let me talk from the point of view of the Ngonsop.
Mhm.
Yeah, I pray you. Yeah, yeah, because from that, it's all the same thing. Yeah, which Gonso is the Nsor kingdom is it's the origins of the Nsor kingdom actually is from the mother the mother side of things. Gonso was one of those children from their very origins, the aboriginal peoples of that particular people. They had to get together with maybe the Fumban people, the Bafia people. Yeah. So the Ngonso is a lady who came out from that stock and then carried his people, her people, and then was traveling and then made alliances with other people. And then they finally settled where the present soil is. And to understand, the point is that those who hold those things, it's like it's holding fire.
Mhm.
With those who keep those things, and it's dangerous because it's Africa. Africa is the first spiritual ground in the world. They are our creators. And so when you hold us, we are holding fire and it will burn you. I talk, for example, the Gonso, which we're talking about. I just pray that the Germans understand this as they're already discussing. I saw Chimamanda Adichie speak so well about those things in one of the conferences in Germany. Yeah, and I pray that they listen to that lady. It is for their own sake, not for Africa. Because there are certain things which it is time that handles it. It is not just a carving. No, it is not just a picture, or it is a whole people. It
Mhm.
is what those people are. Their hearts, their minds, their everything is on that console. That is a woman who is their everything. To take that from them. I mean, the German explorers or the German colonialists who took that because people could not take something from far away Kumbo. So right to pray, so protecting it that way. They knew where they took it from.
Mhm.
Then someone surely put it on somewhere where nobody, maybe it's only the fun, maybe it's only the fun, and some few people have the key to that area. And so when they raided that palace, they went to those places and they had to collect because they knew the importance of it. And so it's frightening for any African who knows the power of spirituality in Africa, for those keeping those things. And that's why we're just praying that it should not be a war. It should be a peaceful, wonderful thing, which I see the Germans are already realizing, to just give it back to those palaces quietly. Because if it will be a matter, the point is that things happened in Africa where Africans also began to forget their history. When people are digging into their histories and understanding what African spirituality is, when they will finally realize what African spirituality is, what those, not, they're not symbols, they're the people. For example, the Ngonso is Ngonso for us. It's Ngonso. It is not like Gonzo. It is just like a Catholic. A Catholic who receives, for example, Holy Mass, when a Catholic receives Holy Communion, which for some other person it's bread. A Catholic is taking and eating it, Jesus Christ is eating it. And for you to touch that, to harm that, is to harm his whole or her whole life. That is what Ngonso is to Africa. That's why Afuakom is to the Com people. That's why, although, and I just pray that Europe learns and gives those things back before Africans begin to realize what those things are, what they were to the African spiritual, because it is the raiding of those things, and the people who didn't knew it, when they get in there, they check on those things which the people's power is on. They check it because colonialism didn't just come. It's not just riffraffs. It's not just explorers. It is intellectuals. It is religious people. It is everything sent there to study the people. and to know what holds them together and to break it. That's what Achebe did in Things Fall Apart. That the rope, the thing that held us together, the thing is, the knife is set on it and it's destroyed. And our people are running helter skelter. And that is why we pray that let Europe help itself to just give it back. Because as Chino Achebe says in some place that at one point that there is one colonialist in Rhodesia who said that the I mean during the days of colonialism down in the Zimbabwe part there, where he said I mean a British colonialist who said that the relationship between an African and European is a relationship of a horse and a rider, and that the Africans are just there as horses for us to ride. And he was not just joking. He was saying yeah. But what we are saying is that things are changing. It's reaching a level now where Africans are, it is not a matter of questioning. What am I doing in Rome? I'm teaching theology in Rome. And I'm also teaching theology and listening to what theology is. I'm reading libraries in Rome where there is knowledge not just about, because even when you tell people lies, there are certain things which you keep, which you don't know that they are wisdom. Is wisdom for the victims. And when I enter a library here, I like to get to areas where I will get knowledge about what Africa was before. I get enter a museum here. I'm so curious about the things that were brought from Africa, and I'm realizing it, and I'm learning. That learning puts me not raising my dignity. It makes me to come back to the human being that I am. The
Absolutely.
consciousness of it. And when I sit down and I'm talking with them, there is no room for any mediocrity. Yeah. And things are put down in the slate and they're looked over. That's why, rather than running away, because that's the tendency of some people that we should be distant, let's get into it. It's a play, a battle play. You get into it, learn it, and when you learn one or two things, you remind them also. That's how I feel. And because my mission here is not just to teach. I stand on the shoulders not of Thomas Aquinas. No, Thomas Aquinas was an Italian. I stand on the shoulders not of Joseph Ratzinger. I stand on the shoulders not of maybe John Paul II. I stand on the shoulders of Arinze. I stand on the shoulders of Augustine. I stand on the shoulders of Tertullian. I stand on the shoulders of Saint Anthony, the beginner of monasticism. Those are all Africans, proud African. When I'm teaching in the class, I'm teaching as a proud person. The Catholic Church is my thing because we were first missionaries in Europe. And I say this with all pride and with all openness. We evangelized Europe when Europe was a bush, We came from Africa, from great Alexandria, from great Carthage, from great from great Ethiopia, and we evangelized the bush here. And when they are supposed to be thankful to us. That's how I see it, Dr. Susan.
It is very, very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting because we're getting to a point where we understand that this particular spirituality that we're talking about, if you had, it's like they take the resources and they transform it and they market it. That's just even not part of our concerns. Now we all know that whether they take the minerals or the mining, we have enough and we will always have enough gold, diamond. We had been blessed by the creator that there would be endless untappable resources on that continent. We see every day gold flowing in the streets in Congo, even though Congo is the one of the most affected that was raped, genocidally stealing. Things from the Leopold state today is still continuing, but it has never stopped. We see it rain gold, it flowing on the street. People just get up in the morning and gold. So the things that we have underneath, that Africa was given underneath, is there. It will never end. But now the minds, like we say, the minds that were taken, in which we could refer to all these artifacts in our spirituality beings as intellectual properties that were stolen,
Yeah.
right, and then patented
Mhm.
in a foreign place. I mean,
Yeah.
you can imagine, like we're talking about this in Gonzo.
Mhm.
For those of you who just hear the name, is the queen mother of a whole race of the Bantus
Yeah.
that was taken. Her artifact was stolen, and
Mhm.
it is still living here in Berlin in a museum. And so you begin to ask, like he said, all these powers is a whole spiritual being, the know-how, the intellect of a people, and you arrest it and keep it and make money, chunks of money from it, and you begin to think that your civilization will live on. How? So that intellectual arrest is also a moral arrest for us. And we begin to wonder why our spirits are not acting up in the right place. So if ancestrals, your mothers, your queens, your kings are still locked up. So it's the same thing that our brains are still locked up. These are what the royals on the continent and the rituals are saying. But we're coming now from a theological point of view, and we're getting another opinion, another perspective. We know, I mean, you were struggling, King Joshua Maponga, that was the one, is your colleague in the teaching
Yes.
world,
Yes.
who
He's
actually
profound.
went through this
He's
and
profound.
come
Yeah.
out now to say these are things that are exposed. Yes, I also was on the other side. I used to be a bishop. I used to carry the Bible. I used to convince everybody. I used to preach. I used to raise funds. I used to go from denomination to denomination. Look at his history, you'll know. But what is this awakening and this transformation that is overtaking us? That's why we're not leaving any person. We are not discriminating about whoever. Doesn't matter how disturbed, how distorted, how destroyed we have been. This is a kind of a period where we come together, those that are awoke, they empower those that are not awoke, and we bring a different perspective. But I want to thank you so much, Prof, for what you just said. Like, we listen, we're open and we're different. And particularly the spiritual people that we are, we're not the people that should fight against each other because of distractions, but we should unite. So, what unite us is exactly what you say, the values and who we are, and not what disunite us, like, oh, because he's a Catholic now, he's a religious person. But what is the consciousness that this human being, what is the purpose that he has, what is the objective, what is the contribution that he's putting on this path. And so that could be essential than just looking at an individual, particularly when we know that we're not fighting against humans, we're fighting against principalities of
Yeah.
darkness operating in this, in all dimensions, fighting the true creatures that we are. So yes, I want to thank you so very much. You really enlighten us on that, and we are very grateful. What is it again that you say? This is what we should be focused on. Like you already spoke about the story. We know Rev Shock was also here, Reverend Nina. Now all of them, they say, this story of Joseph in the Bible and Jesus is that is actually why did he run to Egypt, was because he ran to that. But there's one thing that is very, I mean, I'm going to be not getting into your career or anything, but I just want to
Mhm.
know this. When the Catholics pray, they pray to God the Father and the Holy Spirit, and they take out the mother. Why?
It's a very important question. It's a very important question. And sometimes I even also always ask, is God really the Father? I ask myself. I'm asking from the point of view of somebody who's coming from from a culture where the mother, a mother is everything. Like the Igbo culture, there is an Igbo name called the mother is supreme. I've forgotten what that particular name. Yeah, and
Mhm.
most of our cultures are mother. That is why sometimes when they talk about women emancipation, and the reference is always maybe about Africa, and it's a big lie. African cultures adore women. African cultures, for example, from the Nsọ kingdom where I come from, yeah, the fawn is always a man, but the mother of the fawn is more dignified, more important than the fawn.
Of course, she's the
And
creator.
well, let me talk from the point of view of my father and my mother. Yeah, because sometimes there are certain things you discover certain things from your own environment too. Yeah, my mother nearly is everything in the family here, and my father listens to my mother, though he is authoritative in certain things, but mama is everything. I know we say that they suffer and all that. Yes. Well, doctor, let me go back to what you asked me uh, about the father, God being
If
the
you don't
father.
know, I'm sorry. Let's be very. If you don't know, you don't know. If you don't, if it's an ethic, but it's just another point of touching that aspect. Like,
Yeah.
how on earth a mother is taken out? Is this just? Go ahead.
No, anyhow, let me talk from the point of view of the Catholic Church. Yeah, which the point of the Catholic Church, there is God is Father, but I discovered that most of the qualities that that Father has are female qualities, like mercy, love. God is love. That is the definition, and which comes from scriptures. That God is love, and if when you listen to Pope Francis, for him, life is is mercy. Yeah, the mercy. Who has mercy more is the woman. And God works on details. God knows, we believe that God knows the intricacies, the intimate things about me, about you. And
Mm-hmm.
when you see who knows the details is the females. The females know, and the people go to those details. And many other things. Yeah, but the Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, it's more of male. Yeah, but the centrality of the mother of Jesus Christ, yeah, in the Catholic faith brings out, yeah, that beauty about the woman, yeah, which also is in the African environment where the fawn is the king, but the queens, anyhow, no, let me not talk about the queens because the queens, but the fawn's mother. There are sacrifices, African traditional religious sacrifices, which the phone can't do without consulting the land of the mother and the mother. And when certain things do happen, yeah, they go back to those areas of the matrilineal lines. Yeah. And so that at the end of the story, you see, for example, in the Catholic Church, Mary, the way Mary is celebrated, and even the dogmas around Mary. Yeah, the dogmas around Mary. They bring Mary up there in such a way that sometimes it's a scandal to some other faiths. But I think it's a wonderful thing. Yeah, because Jesus Christ, the blood of Jesus Christ was typically Mary's, was Mary's. We know that Jesus Christ came through the power of the Holy Spirit, which is disputed by some other figures and all that. Yeah, but we believe that. And believing that, we understand that it is the blood of Mary that Jesus Christ had. Joseph was just the foster father. And so when I talk about Africa, even, that's why I say that if Mary is coming from Africa, God is, Jesus Christ is completely, Jesus is completely African. It's not even from Israel, because Jesus Christ only has something to do with Israel through Joseph, who didn't share in the blood sharing of creating Jesus. Yeah, and so from that point of view, but we know that culturally, the father, even the foster father, has something to do with the son and all that. Let's keep that argument aside. But the point is that this was something that happened in history, because what I'm talking about, Jesus, I mean the origins of Jesus from African. If you notice, he who is very vigilant about the present Pope of the Catholic Church, the first Pope from I mean from the Americas, from South America. Because when we talk about the history of South America, it's all the history of those in the diaspora. When you talk about Argentina, about Brazil, about Colombia, all these places, they are all our people there. All our people there. That's why when they play football like the Brazilians, people like Ronaldo, people like Ronaldinho, those are Africans. Those are all Africans. And therefore, Pope Francis coming from that world, he knows one or two things about what I'm talking about. The Mary of Mexico, because in the Catholic Church, there are apparitions, it's believed, and the apparition of Mary in in Mexico is black is Black Mary. I was talking about Pope Francis. Each time he is going out, I say, just observe, Dr. Susan. It's also a little assignment to you too. Just observe. Each time you hear that Pope Francis is leaving Italy to visit a country, just check where he will first of all go and pray. Yeah, he has made it a duty to always go and pray to a certain Mary. It's called Mary of Loreto. Even during in the Google, you can even click you. It's Black Mary, Mary of Loreto. Is Black Mary, black. And
I
it is
was
a
about to ask that. I really was. That would have been my next question.
yeah,
That we've seen even in videos that it's not like there's some conspiracy theory here. It's open. It's even on the net. You can research it. That he really prays to the Black Madonna. What we
yeah.
hear, and I was about to like, what is that? Yes, but you
No,
just
it's
addressed it.
history. Because he's coming from, he's a Jesuit. And Jesuits are the highest intellectual wing of the Catholic Church. In fact, it was founded by Saint Ignatius of Loyola in those times where the church was going off. Certain popes were coming up who were not actually in line with certain things. And Saint Ignatius of Loyola came up, a simple priest who decided to form this congregation, a congregation of intellectuals to enter into the roots of the Catholic Church and defend the Catholic Church, the pure Catholic Church. So Pope Francis comes from that world of the intellectuals who read. It's not just like some of the congregations who maybe they only centralize on spirituality or morality and all. No, it's an intellectual wing of the Catholic Church that they know the truth about things. They know it. They know what happened.
Thank you. The very essential reason why we're speaking about these things is like we all know that sometimes we roll on a very ignorant page to get into details with what actually happening around our world. So we're not making decisions to say that someone is going to convince us of what we know, but we're making decisions to say the more we know, like a prof you said in the beginning, the more we are aware, the more we understand the inner circle, the more we really even would valorize our own culture and our values. The more we see that, not everything that we see means they still come back to consult. They still come back to tap from the roots. They still acknowledge actually who the creator is, where the power lies. And so it is for us to even just recognize it. Most of the time we're still on the physical. But I think we're getting really, the conscious family that is here knows it. We're getting really higher at the dimension of our spirituality, which is very important. The objective of our unity and togetherness is bringing more power to say what you see, they still come back to get from you. So imagine you knowing that value. Imagine you knowing that value that, most of the time we think of it only from the other side of you. So that's why I'm really, really thankful, Prof, that you've been looking for this possibility to say, let us look at things from another perspective. Let us get into the inside. Let us talk on people, Africans that are in these places. What is it that they know? Is it just that they are also brainwashed? Is it just that they are following another cult or to be like sell out to their own people? Or they actually are conscious of what they're doing? They know their history. They know where they're coming from. They know their work. They know their purpose. They know on what grounds they are standing. That is the objective of what we've been doing here today. And I really, really thank you, Rev, for pointing out some certain things that probably we did not look at it that way, should not have even thought about it, but you threw some light on it. I'm still loving much more the part of the cultural aspects, particularly of your heritage, which, like I said, they are the indefeatable because they defeated the colonials. They took the stool also from the Germans. It's not just like they took Saw away, but you also know how much battles that you fought until books about the warriors are. Even if we look at the country in the southern Cameroons today, the most heated region, where the resistance is more, is in your regions, because they're known as people, as warriors, and people that are culturally inherent, but we also know that because the missionaries were or in this area, most of the priests are from this region that were, that were settled, that the missionaries settled there, right? So in a nutshell, we conclude on the fact that, so you can you describe, can you see yourself like the missionaries that left and came to our people and brought their own. And you're seeing yourself like a missionary of truth that is also on this path to tell the people, no, all what you see, it's not just what it is. Of course, I'm living my life from there and I'm living from there, but I know the truth, and the truth must be aligned to the virtues. Do you see yourself like that? Like a crossover, bringing the truth, and some people brought the lies.
Thank you for that question, Dr. Susan. And it's very important because when you even look from the very origins of things, life was made to crisscross. I mean, like we talk about Africa, before the Europeans were exploring Africa and doing the plundering that they've done, Africans had explored the whole world. That's why I quoted about Australia. I mean, those other
Aborigine.
hidden parts of the world. Yeah, the
Mm.
Aborigines. Even America. Do you know that the Aborigines, I mean, the people whom they call the Indians, or who, I mean, the first people, those are Africans. They were Africans. Africans were spread everywhere, explored because of their civilization. So, as you say, the point is, I believe in what is called cross pollination of ideas and cultures. Yeah, that it is in it is in that roundabout of ideas and facts that we notice wonderful things, and that getting when we are closed upon ourselves, like we did, when we are closed upon ourselves, it's dangerous. It's always good to get out and hear what the other person is doing. Send somebody. Like I always go back to Chino Achebe. I mean, there is a novel called Hour of God.
Arrow of
Yeah,
God, yes.
where there is Ezeulo, the chief priest. Who, the chief priest is supposed to be the upholder and of the African traditional, and Ezeulo does that so well, so well. But Ezeulo, in his wisdom, notices that no, these new people, this white man, let me just send one of my soldiers to go and hear what they are doing. So I know, but the sound begins to be abominable because he begins to do certain type of funny things. Yeah, but Ezolo is still convinced and stands by the fact that he likes it. Yeah, because the world is changing, and because Ezolo surely notices from the story of things fall apart, that it was the closeness of Okonkwo who didn't want to hear anything about the white man, that we were
Mm-hmm.
quickly crushed. If we quickly understood and got into that man who came, the stranger who came, get into his room, ask him, "What are you? Who are you?" And notice what he's doing. Ask him questions. Like sometimes they do with us here in Europe. Yeah, before you enter Europe, they already know you they even know maybe they may even know what the blood type you have and all that. We have to be conscious of that and be open. But the point is
Mm-hmm.
that we have also to be careful. Yeah, because a certain type of openness also creates problems. You have to first
Correct.
of all ascertain who you are, and that is what great Africans are doing today. Ascertain what you have. Let us get back to who we were. We talk about those those things that those great spiritual properties of Africa. Yeah, what are they? Let us understand actually, because it is the lack of the knowledge of those things that we are still in this mess called African states and all that. Yeah, and because the consciousness of our history, as we have emphasized, yeah, the knowing where we're coming from. When we know that, I give an example of these great African minds that have had, great Africans who have had, for Kwame Nkrumah. I spoke about Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah, when he left for studies from Ghana to America, was just like any other human being, any other African who just moves up and down and enjoys oranges and all, and all that. Yeah, but he goes to America and he gets knowledge. He gets into libraries. He asks questions. He meets Afro Americans there, professors who knew things. He knows those things. He fills his mind with those things. And he's coming back to Ghana with an outrage, first of all, about the independence of his people, Ghana. And he tops the list in 1957. And he sees that that is a very small thing. Why? Why? Because of the knowledge that he gained among the great African minds that he met in America. You see a man like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Sometimes you speak about Reverend Martin Luther King just about the King of America. No. Do you know that King was present in the Independence Day of Ghana? He was invited by Kwame Nkrumah, and King came. He was present. And when he came back, when he went back to America, the first sermon, we need to read the first sermon he preached. He was all full of Africa, all full of African unity. Any great African man, whether it's from Brazil or whatever, the first thing they always talk is about African unity, that we must come together. Mm. The famous speech that King, Martin Luther King Jr. did in, I think, 1963. The famous I Have a Dream. The roots of that speech are from that first sermon, when he came back from Ghana. There are words, capital words he used when he was now speaking unconsciously. He was no more using the script. The words, there are certain words from that sermon which he preached the first time when he came back from Ghana. Yeah, there were those words that were coming to his mind and was preached. I've studied those two things, and I've noticed when you look like Chinua Achebe, whom I've been speaking about, when Chinua Achebe wrote Things Fall Apart, and Things Fall Apart was heard everywhere. And I don't know, there was a certain famous, I think it's a British or maybe a group of writers who decided to bless Chinua Achebe because of the greatness of Things Fall Apart. They decided to sponsor him to travel anywhere he wanted in the world. And where did Chinua Achebe choose? The first place was in America, not to go and meet maybe President Kennedy or whoever, all those people, to meet his brothers. Hughes Langston, all those Afro-American writers. And the greatest pain Chinua Achebe had was that he did not meet James Baldwin. Yeah, but before he died, he made sure he met James Baldwin, and they were friends. So that that's communication. You meet somebody like M. Césaire, yeah, in France. His best friend was Sédar Senghor. Yeah, so that he's coming from the Martinique, and Sédar Senghor is coming from Senegal. That consciousness, because without that unity, we are finished.
Correct. Absolutely.
We're finished. Yeah. And therefore, it's for me, among Africans, it's a crime not to be conscious of the unity of Africans.
I share. Yes.
And share.
It's a crime.
And share the knowledge. Yeah.
It's a crime. It's a crime. I mean, I'm picking this one. This is very powerful. It's a crime. It's a crime against us not to be conscious of our unity. And this is one of the quotes of today that is really relevant. It's very relevant. You're talking about the arrow of God. You talked about Okongo. You talked about Things Fall Apart. We're creating also a book club with Professor James Small and Dr. Leonard Jeffries that we want to tap into really these local stories that were created with the vision of our unity and our cultural aspect. And I think I would like to put you on that book club list, particularly when you're talking, because Things Fall Apart, Arrow of God, and all that are also, even the Lukong and the Leopard, they're all, in that libraries. And we want to
I'll
start
be grateful, doctor.
really,
I'll be grateful.
from next year, digging into this aspect of, representing. Why was he resistant? I think you also know about the old man and the medal.
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
know
did not know your
it's
name.
all
Yeah.
that, and these are all historical books that showed the presence of the missionaries and the resistance of the Africans. But most of this literature, we don't have it anymore, and we're trying to recollect all this history. It's just like what you're talking today. We can see it in Maponga's book, the letters book that he brought out now. Find out your truth, because exactly this is the element, that truth that you bring in from an insider inside. I mean, I just want you again to throw more light, the essence of our unity to us, particularly in this time.
Yeah, Dr. Susan, you said something, yeah, which is still in line with the essence of that unity about the importance of books. The importance of books. There is an old saying which says that until the lions decide to write their own story, the story will always be will be painted on the side of the hunter. I mean, it's very
Hmm.
important. The works of people like Chino Achebe, the works of people like James Baldwin, the works of people like M.S. Césaire, the works of people like who are these Africans from different parts of the world. They
Hmm.
should be our Bible.
Check Antioch. Yep. Antioch.
Yeah, yeah, those people check out that Diop. They should be our Bible. That is, we begin from there. Let Africans learn their stories. Let an Afro American read Chino Achebe. Let an African in Ground Zero read James Baldwin. Oh, that great writer. I like him so much. James Baldwin was full of fire. One of his books, Fire on the Mountain or whatever. Yeah. Those are people who knew the story of the African. And when they had opportunity to pull it out, they pulled it out so wonderfully. So wonderfully. There is even MS Césaire in French, the French language. There is one, he wrote one of the greatest manifestos against colonialism. Yeah, against colonialism. If that should be translated and shared even to other countries that, I mean, English, and those are those things. At the end of the story, culture is found in books, and Africans have been encouraging Africans to read because there is so much hidden in books, so much hidden, and that's the strength of the white man against us. Somebody once said that if you want to hide something, you hide to an African, you hide it in books. It's very annoying and insulting. It's an insult. But it's an insult, which is the reality, which is the reality. And there is so much. As I was talking about the first century BC and the second century BC, Dr. Susan Anna and Dr. Susan Tata, to be very honest with you, when you read what happened during those times, you see that we're living in a sea of ignorance about Africa. Any
Hmm.
African who knows the story of how things happened during those times. Yeah. The greatness of Egypt, the greatness of Carthage, the poor, for example, they talk about, sometimes we even talk about that area. Christianity. When we talk about uh, even the Old Testament story of Joseph in the Bible, the Old Testament story of Joseph in the Bible. This is Joseph with his family. Famine, terrible famine. And Joseph is sold to Egypt. The Egyptians get him because the Egyptians valued human beings. Africans always value human beings. They get him and they tap into his great gift of dreaming. That's how Joseph becomes a governor. And that's how he now pulls the Israelites to Egypt. They come to Egypt for centuries, and Egyptians protect Israelites. Each pharaoh is coming and taking care of Israelites. They coming and taking care of Israelites. Coming and taking care of. It's only one pharaoh. They say that sometimes when you do good 9 times, and it's only one the 10th time, they capitalize on that 10th time and forget the 9 times. It's just one pharaoh who hated Israelites and started trouble, and that's how the Israelites had to leave. No, we should give credit to Africans, the Africans. And when we talk about the Egyptians of that, is all blacks. So that's why it is very annoying because now the ideologists or the propaganda man who are the plunderers, they take that history and they capitalize on that 10th evil that maybe a pharaoh did. And they make sure that you don't understand that there were 9 other pharaohs, 9 other good things that those people did. Just imagine the hospitality of Africa, even today, even during the times of slavery and slave trade, and slavery and colonialism. It was the hospitable African, the hospitality of Africa that killed Africa. And that is where, for me, I think that Africans should also look deep into it. Yeah, our hospitality. Let us study our hospitality and see where we can put brakes onto it. Yeah, because it's not enough just to be too hospitable. It's not.
Yes,
Too much
correct.
hospitality has finished. No, not finished us. Let's not use those terms. No, I have to use certain terms. Africa still stands tall. Like you said something about Africa still having resources. I mean, the resources will never deplete from Africa because I believe, it's my belief, when I look around the continents I've traveled to know actually one or two things. Yeah. Africa, for me, I believe that Africa is the continent that was created by God for human living. Other places were created for maybe like the winter we are witnessing here is not human. It's not human. I don't think that Europe was created for human living. Yeah, because if you live for the most of the months we live here, we are living inside houses with heat. It's generated outside. But in Africa, the heat is outside. The air is outside. Africa, and Africa is always outside. Africa was created for human living. That is the land of the human beings. The other place is just this helter-skelter. I mean, all this ruffian type of life which enters and people they scatter us everywhere. That human beings begin to scatter into places and all that because of human destruction. And you know that destruction of it draws itself towards today with the coronavirus conspiracy, which we don't know where it's coming from. But it's man's humanity to man with the creation of some of these things. I believe that God, in His all good, in His goodness, created the human being to live in Africa and created other parts of the world for other things. But as you know, the testimony of the coronavirus, where human beings create things which it destroys them. Because of the corruption that lives in man, we destroy ourselves and we begin to run helter skelter and all that. I'm sorry, those are some wild thoughts I have, and I hope they're understood in their context. Thank you.
I mean, we're learning so much, Prof. I mean, I'll still love to you on this program time and time again. There's some very important aspects that, like you said, each and every one of us is bringing something to the table. And we're talking, I'm throwing this back to the audience. Thank you for watching so much. I think, Prof, your work, you've collected every other of yours and your viewers because you are highly followed, because of your principles, because of even the engagement. And everybody knows you're a warrior, you're an activist, you're not just a priest, you seem to be, but you're Pan-African in every sense of it. And so, yes, you have too much huge following. So your fans are actually writing and getting back to us, even when we just shared and like, oh, this is a very great person you're bringing to share knowledge with us from his own perspective. And we're very, very thankful. Now, I just want to make an announcement out of the conversation for today. There are a lot of you that reach out to us and giving tons of people we should host. I know a sister in Haiti that like, oh, listening Queen Ngone of Gabon, but there are also sisters out here that want to introduce you to them in the Brazil, in Haiti, that are doing incredible work for our unity, for our unity. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. But the one thing that you don't do is give contacts. We host everybody. That's the reason why we're here. That's the purpose of the PAT TV, which we call the Pan-African Daily TV, the PAT TV, is to give voice of unity of every African anywhere. And that's your agenda, is the African unity. You have our platform free of charge. Share knowledge with us, impact us, empower us, one another. So please, if you assign a contact to the Pan African Daily TV, you send it to the email panafricandailytv@gmail.com. I know a lot of you have been doing it. You reach out also to our WhatsApp. The WhatsApp, like I said, maybe from next time we operate on WhatsApp anymore, right? Purpose of understanding. So use the email. The official email is panafricandailytv@gmail.com. And if you refer a guest to us, please kindly give us the contact information of that guest. We have too much on our hands, and we are a very small voluntary team. Of course, we're still on to that point where we really want to establish, but right now, if you just send us a contact and you give us a video, that's what most of you do. You just share a link of, please, Dr. Susan and Naisha, can you bring this guest? It's to go and get the contact, on research. Most of them will write, they don't respond. But particularly you who responded or proposed that guest, have the contact to her or him. Just help us. So we would really be thankful and grateful if you want us to host. One of us that is knowledgeable, good knowledge to us to learn and to unite and to promote and expose the need why we should be united. Make sure you put the contact information. It is very relevant. It's the easy our work. And that's why I come to the point where a lot of people are like, oh, share this with you, and you don't. We don't have that time to really go and do the research. We have to organize, we have to plan, we have to, our home pages are getting ready to be launched so that you people can really enter into it. We have a space on our own. So all those things we don't, right? There's no holiday. So please, if you send us the contact, send us the guest to send us the appropriate contact. Do your own work by just facilitating us with that contact. We do appreciate you a lot. Yes. So thank you, Reverend. Like I'm saying, even you're already on the road. You have a lot of contacts. You meeting with students out there, with voices, with activists out there, whether in the Caribbean, whether in the Americas, whether on the continent. Your network is so huge. We're looking for all this perspective. Anything that we haven't heard here, we want to. We said we were touching base with artists, visionaries, painters, storytellers, not just only historians, not just only authors, not only how do I want to say, but we want to touch all the dimensions of the African. As we know, we're talented and gifted. Every African came with a space to bless and to push forward its people. If you haven't discovered your own gift, you find it in you, you have it. And when you find it and you know the truth, like King Maponga said, find your truth, please bring it and share it. That gift was not given by your ancestors. Keep it for yourself. Help us to promote and to encourage and empower one another. Discover your gift, your talent. Whether you are a painter or a drawer or a storyteller or what, we've seen a lot that is coming up now. The future, our future is inventing a lot of things. We just shared a video from a young guy from the South that designed, and I don't know whether the ancestors are really retransforming and coming in every form to tell us Africans that we had been great. You see a young child, I think he's between 8 and 12, develop, an apparatus which shows the different cultures at, a woman grinding pepper on a pepper stone, the one that is pounding fufu, the one that is doing carpentry work in just a small box, and all of them are busy doing that thing. We're still trying to reach this kid. We look at them as kids, but these are ancestors. We have seen all sort of designers, young people that just make mud and they build a whole mansion. A lot of them that have invented toys that fly. But these are kids. And we are not paying attention. We keep asking from, and the ancestors are they're coming back in all forms. even as children, as young people, and amazing things. They've never been to school. They don't know the technology that we keep talking. Oh, Africa needs technology. That's going to be another topic. What technology do we need that we never had?
Yeah.
Reverend, what technology did we never had that we keep saying, oh, even that folks that we believe, we keep saying, we need our Facebook, we need our this. No, we saw a lot of posts that Facebook was invented even before the 18th century, BC, like you're saying, the second BC, by Africans. They all proved, and they used the cowries, royal cowries, to put it, like I'm going to share that story and image with us. So the truth out. Everything that we were sleeping on, our ancestors are waking up. It's just coming. We need to just research this in all this. And what books are we reading? Who are the ones whose books are we reading? That should be it. And I want to thank you that purpose that you said this should be our Bible. Over to you. This should be our Bibles. The books of great ancestors. They all have the Bible of our story, of our origin, of our culture, of everything that we are. So we don't search any further. Over to you, Prof.
Dr. Susan, I'm so grateful. You've touched on some very wonderful things. And one of them is about the what Africa's place in inventions. Africa's place in inventions, even the modern inventions, even in the modern inventions, because it's always good to look at things historically. Just imagine an African who develops an idea, brings it up, and produces something in America. With the racism that sometimes raises its ugly head in America, in certain parts of America, comes up with an invention. Some white supremacist who has a way to get to that African will get it and put his name in. That's what has happened in history. Look, every invention in history, there is a black man around. Not just around, the origin, the original idea will be coming from those God-forsaken peoples because of their historical place. And that is why any invention, it is always the name of the boss that comes up. But the invention, get into the history, you will know actually who brought it up. Then we get back even to the very back history. When we talk about democracy today, we talk about political arrangements, we talk about global definition of human rights and all these things. When we talk about that, globally, the story always goes back to a Plato, to a Socrates, to an Aristotle in Greece, Athens, because that is the Western, that's the Western seat of wisdom. But read the story of those people: Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. Those are people, they were students in Alexandria in Egypt. Everything, I say everything they had was from Egypt. It's like everything they had was from Egypt. They get it from Egypt, study in Egypt, and then carry it and then go to their world. And then that is how they are bringing out that stuff. And the people who always reinvent history, they will carve it in such a way that the origin is Athens. But meanwhile, the origin was in Egypt. And that's how it cuts across. That's why I was talking about the history of Christianity, which I'm conversant about. Yeah, because that's my field. Is the history of the black man. It's the history of the African. I said the first Christian theologian. I'm not talking about Catholic theologian. I'm talking about Christianity. Whether you are a Protestant, whether you are a Catholic, whether it is about Christianity. The first it is in Wikipedia. What I'm saying in Wikipedia, click. The first Christian theologian is called Tertullian. is an Alexandrian from
Mm-hmm.
Egypt, a black man. So at the origin of things, we are found around it, and some other things which I wanted to say. When I get into things, sometimes I get so consumed that I forget some other ideas. You surely ask me certain other questions, Dr. Susan. Please, can you highlight it again?
No, 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 no. It was just like you said about the books that are written by us should be actually our orientation and our Bible. That was just
Yes.
it.
Oh
Yeah.
yes. Oh yes. Yeah, because life is about stories. You tell your story. Yes, they have told their story, and
Mm-hmm.
with all those untruths, we let us tell our own story. That is
Mm-hmm.
what inspired Chino Achebe to write his books. Chino Achebe said that in one of his interviews. He says, "How did he write Things Fall Apart?" It is when he read a novel by a British, I think it's a British lady, yeah, about his people, the Igbo people, and he saw funny things written about about his people, that he decided to tell his own story. And that is how that story resonated everywhere. That Nelson Mandela in the cold and the bitterness and the pain in the Robben Islands, Things Fall Apart was the comfort of that gentleman because it resonated with him in South America. And that's how our stories, let's allow them tell their own. Let them tell the stories. There is one other man, there's one other British writer who wrote a terrible novel against Africa, about Africa. Conrad is one of the greatest novelists in the Western world. But Chino Achebe handles him, even in an essay, terribly, and declares him an outright racist in the novel he wrote. That novel is one of the great novels in the Western world, but is good. But read Chino Achebe, read Africans, the African worldview also about that novel, and let us tell our own stories. That's how the world is. The world is crisscrossing. When you find yourself in an urban area where there are many people, you don't begin to stand and be listening to us, or maybe finding fault with somebody who is prosperous there, or maybe who has his own nice story there. Sit down, write your own, create your own story, and publish it, and people will buy. So while reading those stories, let us create, let us write it. And there's one aspect which I love, the presence, the entry of the woman, the African woman, into things today. This is the art of the woman. That's
Yes,
why
Chimamanda.
Susan Tata, you're the epitome of what I'm talking about. Some of us, we just come, we are visitors, you understand? But you're the heart of it. That's a woman. It's some time ago, that type of a thing could not happen. You know that very, very well. Yeah. But the entry of you people into things, because the woman sees things detailedly. The woman sees things which we don't see. Look at like this, the woman and the woman whom you have interviewed a good number of times here, Hurricane, a certain woman who was in the African Union. Yeah, you
Mhm.
normally, yeah, that is somebody who touched, she touched on something which is never touched, and France has never been the same with that woman, with that woman living. France has never.
Queen
The
Mother.
trouble with France today, again, the backlash, which I would say against against that empire, France, today, that woman is at the origin. Not at her origin. Her voice is clear, and the clarity of her voice, reminds us of many things. Because she's a woman, and she says certain details which men don't see, which men don't say. So
Ashe.
it's a, when you people enter into things, the things change, and that is the beginning of African consciousness. It's not even the 1960s, 1970s. It is what is happening now when the woman enters into things. I'm talking about also what is happening maybe back in the Cameroons, the southern Cameroons, which we're from one direction, and you're from Meta, that beautiful kingdom. Yeah, which The consciousness of the woman, the trouble. When you touch a woman, yeah, certain you begin to remind people now of certain troubles, and it begins to take certain dimensions. I'm so grateful that women are entering into it, and when women enter into it, yeah, though they have to also to always very careful because sometimes the passion of a woman actually is yeah, I mean the passion of the woman in that she is her passion, she wants things to be done and done rightly and done immediately, and that is what we need in Africa today. Yeah, that's what we need in Africa. We need that passion. We don't want even need so much knowledge. The knowledge is already around there. But the passion to see, like what I was talking about, gravitas,
Mhm.
that virtue which the Romans had, when they are going to conquer a place, they are not only going to go, they're crushing you. They're crushing you. Yeah. That gravitas, we need it. And that power is with the African woman. Yeah, I give an example also, even like because when we talk today, it's like we are forgetting the past. You look at a place like South Africa. South Africa. There is one person who is not so celebrated in South Africa. The issue about the South African troubles. Winnie Mandela. I still feel that Winnie Mandela is not yet placed where Winnie Mandela is supposed to be.
But we
That
celebrate
woman is a great African hero.
her.
Nelson Mandela is the world's great. Yeah, he becomes a world's great, celebrated by the world. But Winnie Mandela is the African great,
Thank you.
greater than for me Nelson Mandela, because South Africa is still suffering today because they did not listen to the Winnie Mandelas. They listened to the Nelson Mandelas, praised by the Western world.
I share.
Yeah, but Winnie Mandela, those are people who knew the truth because she lived it. They went through those difficulties. They accuse her of violence and many other things. The trouble even with the family, the marriage, and all that. Yeah, when there's trouble in the when there's divorce, it's not only about the woman's trouble. The problem is that woman is always suffering. Yeah, that when there is trouble, it's always the woman who is the culprit. There were two of them. I will say, yeah. So it's not about because the trouble with the figure of Winnie Mandela comes from the divorce, and that trouble comes not. I don't think because she was so guilty more than Nelson Mandela. No, the trouble comes because the woman is a weak person and doesn't, especially in the African context. And so what I'm saying is that the power of the woman, the passion of the woman, the strength of the woman, the spirituality, especially because a woman is known more spiritually. Yeah, more spiritually. Yeah, it's something to be exploited for African unity and African togetherness.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much for making that very clear. But regarding, we celebrate Mama Winnie till afterlife. I think most of us are reincarnations of her. And actually, whatever the situation is, the problem is when she left the husband, when she withdrew her powers and the world caught him. That's just the fact. But we speak about it in a normal attitude of divorce and those petty, westernized agenda. That was not it. When her powers gave up on him, then the world take it. And that's our powers that we have. When we give up, if you're not ready, you're not serving the interests of your people the way it's supposed to be in, and a mother gives up on you, then the wolves can get you. The wolves can do anything. So that was the point. And you said it, you put it, no other person could put it like this. She is the mother of the nation. And the Dr. Aricanas are coming after what that mother put out. And many of us are the Winnie Mandelas. You see her on my profile and on our image videos. You see the heroes that are there, and Mama Winnie is there, and her place is always there. Yes. So thank you. I mean, these are all we also will be talking about our heroes, and like the ones we all know were the women, and which women even they left from the southern Cameroons, and moved up to South Africa and the others, and they beat out these colonial stories that we say. But those are stories that, because of some kind of agenda, the patriarchy agenda, we don't recognize the contributions of the Amazons and the women. But Professor James Moore puts it in a very clean and clear manner, and we'll be having a lot of conversations on that. But yes, we are all doing very fine. Motherhood is exactly, and particularly in our ancient culture, like you said, Prof, there was nothing about gender. It was just a people, spiritual people. And all these things that we keep hearing today, man, woman, and that never existed in the culture of Ma'at, in the principles of Ma'at. It was truth and justice. So it didn't have a gender, whether it was the male or the female. If you perpetuated it, it came back to you. So those are also some of the principles that also divide us. Oh, has to be a woman, and woman is marginalized, weak, or has to be the man that is this. But if we go back to our spirituality, we are one being with the creator. And we don't know whether it's female or male. Right. So thank you so much. I want to our sister Vename. Always, sister, you're always very supportive. And all of you that have been watching this communication and this conversation, it has been another perspective coming from a priestess son of the soil, a proud Pan-African, like you see. He said, when I carry it up, the flavor, he couldn't even be different. If you know the tribe where he comes from, he can never be different. It can be priest and everything, but if there's one thing they swear on, is their ancestors and their culture. Do not be do not be disappointed. Do not even think about it. Yes. So I want to thank you, priest, Prof, for coming, and we would really love to have you. Like I said, I want to put you in the book club,
Yeah, I'll
because
be
this
very
book
grateful.
club, Professor James Moore is in it, Dr. Leonard, King Maponga Joshua. I'm adding you into it, and all the books, like their wives also, that are really, putting all this literature together, our Bibles together, and we will start exploring this book, taking chapters, explaining it like you're doing. And I can imagine you as a fan of, Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart, Arrow of God, and all that, the White Man of, the best thing that I'm running up this with what you said. He told that European writer and said, no, the one thing that provoked him to write his own book was when he started criticizing the ideas and the stereotyping of the African in his novel. Then this guy, I don't like to call their names. He said, if you don't like my book, write your own.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right.
And so, yes, if we don't like their book, write our own. So that's just to conclude what you said. We have to tell our stories. So one last word, and we'll be separating, Reverend. What do you want to bless us tonight with? What should we take away with?
Dr. Susan, we've spoken so lengthily. What I have to say, my very last thing is to thank you for this wonderful idea. I do not know where this inspiration came. I am a very great consumer of your content in in your TV. It's a wonderful thing. You've brought Africans together. To be honest with you, these are not, I'm not saying it because you've interviewed me. You've brought Africans together from different directions. And it's a wonderful thing. It's what we're talking about, African unity. I'm so proud of that. And knowing that you are coming from the parts of Africa and of the world where I come from, it's added pride. Thank you very much. And may the goddesses of Africa, of the Southern Cameroons, proud Southern Cameroons, may they bless you and keep protecting you in the great work you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, my in-law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for your wonderful work. And I want to go back to our audience and the family here. You are so a great people. You are so a part of this unity that we're talking about. Your contribution, your comment, your chat is part of the biggest sector that we have here. I can moderate the conversation. The guest speaker or our panelist or our educator and a teacher can bring it. But the most important part are the comments. we still go back and draw strength from it. What you share with us, you're just a part of it. Without it, I cannot imagine us holding this community teachings and talks and unity conversations without the chat. The chats are very important. Each and every one of you that is dropping that knowledge to contribute, to share it, to push the work forward, we can only bless you back and continue to do it. And more of you, when you're watching the conversation, please drop a chat. Okay, whatever it is that you want to share with us. I know most of you, even when we're conversing, you're talking about all the aspects that we need to pay attention to, and you drop even some keywords to our attention. I really, really thank you. If any thanks is coming to me on this Pan African Daily, I always give it back to you, the followers, because you're the reason why we all gather here, everyone contributing. So I want to thank you. Tomorrow we're going to be live again. Remember, I said, I have my girlfriend here with me. She's called B. B said, we have to just make some things irrelevant by just doing our own. If there is a holiday that doesn't fit into our calendar, why do we respect it? Just continue doing your own thing and every other thing becomes irrelevant. So yes, that's why we are going to be live on these days. If anything will happen because of something, it's not because we're celebrating whatever reason. It's just because maybe we're busy putting up some other structures, just for your information. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Prof, for coming to share this knowledge, and we'll get back in contact with you. I want to thank all of you that are watching. Keep in touch. Tomorrow we're going to be live again. So I say good night to all of you. Tuko pamoja. I want to thank Iyababo Tata, and that has also been on the panel today, and Tumi will be taking over tomorrow. So we see ourselves. Good night to all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.